makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part.
One of the rising stars of the Dum Left is a guy called Jackson Hinkle. If you hadn't heard of him before, you may have last week, since he had a debate with Sam Seder of the Majority Report. And during that debate, he described himself as an American patriot, at the same time that he also considered himself a communist and an anti-imperialist. Now, it's obvious to me why he brings up that he's an American patriot, and that is because Hinkle, like pretty much all the others in this Dum Left ecosystem, are explicitly trying to gain a large amount of right-wing followers, specifically far-right followers. That is the grift. That is the way that they have gained popularity. They have done so through leftists who have a very reductive mindset in which, either you are 100% pure leftist, like Hinkle and Jimmy Dore or others consider themselves to be, which is a very kind of cult-like way of framing your ideology and your differences with others. But also people on the right who might be incredibly socially conservative, if not socially reactionary, incredibly misogynist, incredibly transphobic, etc., incredibly racist. But they might have some economically left ideas. So you can have, a neo-Nazi in every sense of the word who nevertheless supports Medicare for all. And these are the people who are drawn to people like Hinkle and Jimmy Dore, etc. And it's very, it's a very muddy ideological ground right now, because I think we've been used to, for a long time, people who call themselves socially liberal but economically conservative. But we haven't really seen many people who are the exact opposite, socially conservative and economically left. That is sort of a demographic that I think, at least in the United States, you have not seen for a while. It's much more common in Latin America, by the way, but maybe not in the U.S. These are the people who are drawn to this kind of discourse, and you can call them this red-brown alliance or Nazbols, however you want to describe them, but it's basically people on the right who have some economically left positions, and I think are drawn to people who claim to be an American patriot at the same time that they describe themselves in leftist terms. So let's watch this video from Jackson Hinkle, where he is, I guess, looking at a video of, I guess it was a debate review from Mike Figueredo of the Humanist Report on his Sam Seder debate. And let's just watch it, because he actually, spoiler alert, he doesn't actually ever say how these things are reconcilable. And I'm going to explain to you why they're not.
Humanist Report kind of fell off the map a little bit. I was like, do I even include Humanist Report in this thumbnail? I guess he does Twitch streams now. His Twitch streams get a grand whopping total of 400 views. I guess he had like 70 viewers when, I can't really be that upset over this. I'm not like frustrated over this. It's kind of a nothing burger for me, because, when Sam Seder or Hassan talk about me, it gets me a little bit hyped up. I'm like, oh, these fuckers, because Sam still gets some views. He gets more than me. We'll put it that way. Hassan gets a fuck ton of views. And it just gets me, it gets me going. And then, but he's streaming to 70 people on Twitch. He was literally streaming to like 75 people. We're currently streaming to more than 10 times that amount. So it's like, it's kind of a nothing burger for me, but let's hear what he
It's a nothing burger, but yet you feel the need to make a video on this. Okay.
has to say, because this guy used to be big. So let's hear what he has to say.
Are you, and you are a communist, yes?
I'm a Marxist-Leninist, anti-imperialist, and American patriot.
Okay.
Oh my god. Right. Oh my god. Nobody tell him. Should we break it to him or just let him live in ignorant bliss?
What?
Anti-imperialist, American patriot.
Yeah. Anti-imperialist, American patriot. Yeah. Yeah. Like all anti-imperialists truly are.
Okay, let me explain to you why this is irreconcilable. In the West, the discourse on nationalism and patriotism, which for the sake of this video, I will take as exactly the same thing. That discourse is kind of framed in a narrative that looks back on these countries' imperialist and colonialist history. So these are all countries that either are existing imperialist states like the US, or were, the dominant imperialist states of the past like Britain, France, etc. Almost every European country is guilty of this to some extent. I mean, even small countries like Belgium were imperialist powers at one point. So, when you have this discourse of nationalism and patriotism in the West, it is framed in this idea that my country needs to be as great as it was back then. So it is inherently imperialist. When you look at what MAGA means, Make America Great Again, it is framed in that idea that America must be big and powerful and dominate others like it used to, which it still does, to be honest. If you talk to Brexiteers in Britain, it is all about recovering, the former imperialist glory, which they believe was lost now that they became kind of second fiddle to the EU. On the other hand, if you go to the non-Western world, if you go to, for example, Latin America, that kind of discourse is flipped. So the nationalist and patriotist discourse in Latin America is framed in terms of resisting imperialism. These are countries who have been victims of Western powers for the last 150 years. And so when you have this discourse framed in terms of resisting imperialism and colonialism, or just general aggression from foreign powers, it therefore becomes logical that it's the left, not the right, that actually is the side of the spectrum that uses nationalist and patriotic discourse. And you see this everywhere. In Mexico and anywhere else in Latin America, maybe some small exceptions like perhaps Chile, because Chile has a bit of imperialist past in them in terms of their wars with Peru and Bolivia. But a country like Mexico, which has no history of being imperialist on its own, and has been a victim of foreign imperialism by the US, by France, etc. It is the left that uses this discourse. It is the left in Latin America that is the most nationalist and patriotic, whereas in the Western world, it is the right. The right in Latin America is really a very pro-globalist and pro-Western, in the sense that they're happy to destroy all national traditions. They're happy to destroy national culture insofar as we have McDonald's and Starbucks and look like the West. That's really what they want. That is the national project of the right in almost every Latin American country. Whereas the left is very sensitive about these things. They don't want to see national culture eroded. They want to see tradition respected. No left-wing Mexican wants to see, a traditional Mexican taco joint be replaced by a Starbucks. So the left is fundamentally an ideology of resistance. And so when you frame nationalism and patriotism in terms of resisting foreign imperialism, you can see why it is not incompatible for, say, a Mexican to say, I'm a Mexican patriot and I'm also anti-imperialist. In fact, almost every Mexican patriot that you will find will be anti-imperialist and will probably be a leftist. And I suspect that is the case in most of Latin America. But you can't do this being from the country that is currently the most dominant country in the world, the country that is the most imperialist nation on earth right now. Because then what do you mean when you say, make America great again? How much greater do you want it to be relative to any other country on earth? Really, this greatness is expressed in terms of your military power or your ability to project power. Hard power, soft power, cultural power, whatever you want to call it. But it is this idea of projecting power onto others that really defines what this greatness means. So no, Jackson, you cannot be an American patriot and simultaneously be anti-imperialist. It just doesn't work.
Like all communists truly are. Like what Stalin was and believed Americans should be. Like what Lenin was and believed Americans should be. Like what Fidel Castro was and believed Americans should be. Like what Mao was and believed Americans should be.
So, history lesson here. All of these countries, at the time of the people that Jackson Hinkle was mentioning, were largely victims of Western imperialism as well. So when Lenin came to power, Russia was still at war with Germany and would soon sign a treaty that would be incredibly favorable to Germany, incredibly humiliating to Russia, which the only reason Lenin accepted that treaty was because he saw the domestic enemy as being a bigger threat than Germany at the time. Also, during the Russian Civil War, there were interventions by Western countries in Russian territory. You had British troops intervening. You had American troops who also fought during the Russian Civil War. A lot of Americans haven't realized this, but yes, there was a time where American troops fought in Russian territory against the Reds. There were Japanese troops as well. So pretty much like the whole concert of nations was involved to some extent in the Russian Civil War. So despite the fact that Russia was still considered a great power, you know, it's been considered a great power for many centuries. It's a big country. At the time, it was besieged by the West. And so it's absolutely natural to have a sense of nationalism and patriotism at the time, like Lenin did, and then frame it in a context of being anti-imperialist. Now, Stalin, when he comes to power, you could still say that, you know, conditions hadn't really changed that much. You know, the Soviet Union still felt threatened by other countries. It really wasn't until sort of the beginning of World War II when, you know, in terms of how they partitioned Poland with Nazi Germany, how they took over the Baltic states, that the Soviet Union really could start to be considered an imperial power, like Russia was once, well before Lenin's days. So, you know, after World War II, certainly the USSR can be considered an imperial power. Even then, I would say that during the context of the Cold War, there was a case to be made for Russians, Soviets, to see themselves as kind of threatened by the West in certain ways and see themselves as patriots. I'm not sure that Americans could have pulled it off during the Cold War, because then you would, you know, you couldn't be American patriot against the communist bloc while simultaneously calling yourself a communist. That sort of doesn't make a lot of sense. But what other countries? Well, Fidel Castro in Cuba. Of course, Cuba has been a massive victim of American imperialism. Totally can consider yourself a Cuban patriot and a communist and an anti-imperialist. And Mao, also, China was one of the biggest victims of Western imperialism in the late 19th century and early 20th century. It was essentially spheres of influence were carved up in, you know, almost all of China was carved up into spheres of influence, where, you know, British, French interest, German interest, American interest, Russian interest, Japanese interest. So yeah, then it was invaded by Japan. You know, more only Chinese people died in numbers that were only dwarfed by the USSR during World War II. So yeah, Chinese people during Mao's time definitely had the case to call themselves Chinese patriots while consider themselves communists and anti-imperialists. But no, Jackson Hinkle, you live in 2022 America. You cannot reconcile those two things at all.
Yeah. An anti-imperialist, a Marxist, and an American patriot. You dumb fuck.
What? My mind is melting. My head is going to explode. How can you be an American patriot and an anti...
Sorry, I had to do it to him. His mind is melting and he said his brain is about to explode? Well... Listen.
Who can this kind of, bad this is like the carrot top of the dumb left. Who does this appeal to? His far right followers. That's who it appeals to. His Nazbol followers as well.
All I'm gonna say is that you can't hold me liable for any of that. That's your own incompetence speaking.
Anti-imperialist, American patriot. What?
What?
My mind is melting. My head is going to explode. How can you be an American
Mind is melting. Wouldn't that imply that he has a brain in the first place? Fool's got more teeth than he has brain cells.
patriot and an anti-imperialist at the same time? Why would you be an American patriot? Who gives a shit? Why are you patriotic for America? Aren't you a communist? If you're a communist, shouldn't you not like America because of the way that we view
If you're a communist,
That's pretty much the summary of his argumentative skills, to be honest. Again, spoiler alert, during this entire video, he does not actually describe how the two things are reconcilable.
fuck you. Fuck you. What a stupid fuck. That's what you sound like to me. That's what you sound like to me. If you're a communist, if you're a communist, doesn't that mean that you hate America? Isn't that what you mean?
communists? That's so weird. I feel like he's just LARPing as a communist. He probably doesn't have any core political ideology. The only
No core ideology, but yes, I'm a communist. If anything, I have like two core of an ideology.
These people don't have ideologies, let's be honest. They are basically grifters who are well aware that there is a significant mass of people on on Twitter, on YouTube, that will follow clowns like him, just who can describe themselves in all these completely incongruent terms, and they don't care about whether they are congruent at all. It's basically just the politics of nihilism, and it's really, really sad because there are the political environment that currently exists in countries like the US, like the UK, open the doors for these type of people to exist. To some extent, you can't blame them for finding receptive audience, but they're grifters, and you have to call them that.
driving thing that like guides him, his guiding star, is what can I say to get views and clicks, and we're giving that to him right now. Unfortunately, I don't know if I could watch this. This might be too just insufferable.
Too much for your little brain.
This is the most smug looking fucking face I've ever seen, and he called.
We're talking about faces now? We're talking about smug faces? I thought we were having like a conversation about how I don't have core values, core political beliefs. Bro, I think his brain actually is broken. He's like, what the fuck? I've never heard this before. What is this? What is this type of sorcery? American patriot and communist and anti-imperialist, but America's at war! Abraham Lincoln must just not have been a patriot, right? Because of all the bad things going on when Abraham Lincoln was president. He must just not have been he must have just been lying or dishonest or grifting or just trying to get clicks and likes by being a contrarian or something like that.
He was fighting a war, a civil war in his own country. What the hell? He wasn't invading other countries. This is really a bizarre analogy.
When he was president, when he called himself a patriot. He probably didn't really mean it. I mean, like, bro, think about it. Think about how fucked America was at that time and how much he changed it. And he must have just been grifting and lying. Abraham Lincoln must have just been grifting and lying with his smug-ass face when he was president, when he said he was a patriot.
He's from the Caleb Maupin crowd of crypto-fascist Nazbol weirdos who have crossed over with the Demi crowds.
I'm willing to bet $50 that if you ask Mike Figueredo what crypto-fascist Nazbol means, he would not be able to provide you an answer.
They are the most incoherent people, tend to be anti-LGBT as well. Yeah, Caleb Maupin. I have interacted with him on Twitter, and I feel like his brain is literally smooth. Like, it's literally smooth. Like, I know that we say that to people as insult.
At least his brain isn't, what did you say, melting, exploding, imploding, something like that?
Fact, Caleb Maupin has me blocked on Twitter, despite the fact that I Don't recall ever interacting with him once. But yeah, it's that kind of people.
At least his brain's not doing that.
From time to time, but I think that he actually has a smooth brain. If you opened up his fucking skull and you saw the brain, it would be completely smooth.
Why does anyone think this is funny? Why does anyone think this is funny? Like, Mike, you've been doing content for too long to still be this unfunny, this not funny.
To be fair, I do think that that Mike Figueredo should have at least gone on to describe why he thinks these things are incongruent. I mean, these are ad hominems. I do not support people. Well, I do, in fact, support people doing ad hominems and insulting others. I'm perfectly fine with it, insofar as there is also context and content that is beyond the ad hominems. So they're basically the cherry on top, but they're not the cake.
What word am I supposed to use there? Those words did not work. Unfunny, not funny. I don't know. I don't care. He's just not funny.
Okay, I'm not gonna talk about these people because it's gonna rot all of our brains, and I think that we deserve better. Didn't somebody say that they wanted to watch a PragerU video?
Oh, that'll definitely not rot your brain. Go watch the PragerU video.
Okay, so yeah, 8 minutes, but he did not spend a single second actually describing why or how you can reconcile being an American patriot and anti-imperialist Marxist-Leninist. Mostly the anti-imperialist bit is the one that, I mean, I definitely think you can be a Marxist-Leninist, but the anti-imperialist bit, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, this Jackson Hinkle guy is pretty funny, and let's just remind ourselves where this guy comes from, because his people have political transformations. That is perfectly fine. I'm all for people maturing enough intellectually and ideologically. I was not a socialist 5 years ago. Certainly not 10 years ago. We all change. We all. I don't think that we should look back at people's ideological transformations immediately and think that it's dishonest just because they did it. It's the fact of what he's doing now that makes you think that this transformation is just for grift. And let's look at who Jackson Hinkle was just a couple of years ago. This is from late 2018, when he was running for a seat at the city council in San Clemente, California.
My name's Jackson Hinkle. I'm an organizer, I'm an environmentalist. I'm actually the youth director at Choose, and I'm 19 years old and I'm running for San Clemente City Council. Just so many people have been out there, canvassing for us and going door to door.
Did you know that the Ukraine famine was actually not a genocide?
Showing up at all our rallies and volunteer events and campaign events, and posting about us on social media. There's so much that people have done. It's really incredible, and I'm super thankful to everyone who've taken the time to do that. I think there's a lot of people who are willing to give us their vote and support us in
Discussing Lenin's State and Revolution, I see.
Whatever way they see best fit, but there's a handful more of people that are not only just supporting us for this campaign, but they want to see us, regardless of the outcome, continue to keep fighting, and they will continue to keep supporting us. Maybe we don't see eye to eye on every issue, that's common, but they appreciate us getting involved and me running at such a young age and getting involved in civic engagement and getting other people involved in.
Did you know that Uyghur internment camps are actually just workplace centers?
Civic engagement. I think that's really cool that people are just so excited to see us getting involved, and they want to see us not only succeed in this campaign, but succeed further down the line.
Yeah, that is where Jackson Hinkle is coming from. By the way, there's only white people in this video. Yeah, but this sort of clean-cut, all-American boy now turned into a Marxist-Leninist, tanky, dumb leftist. That is grift. that is grift. So on that note, I have nothing else to say, but if you like this video, please like, please share. Most importantly, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.